welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about a movie called Strange Harvest. So this is a movie that circled around film festivals way earlier in the year, like I think one in March and one in February, and I cannot remember when. I can't remember if it was at South by Southwest or if it was one before that one. I can't remember. It might have been in one before that one. But anyway, I've heard people talk about this movie and the premise of this movie, and from that moment, I was completely hooked in. I had to know what this movie was, and for the longest time, it had no distribution and no nothing, so did not know when it was coming out. That's the beauty and the horror of film festivals, because I love hearing about all these great movies that are coming out through film festivals, but then there's the shitty part of, well, great, none of them have any distribution whatsoever, so now we have to wait maybe sometimes for another year and a half before we get before they get, somebody picks them up for distribution. That just happened with the Toxic Avenger remake. I think that movie that movie aired last year at one of the film festivals, might have been South by Southwest or Fantastic Fest or somewhere like that. And it just sat there for an entire year, and now we're finally getting it the following year in a couple weeks. So stuff like that happens, and I'm so happy that this movie finally got picked up. This movie is directed by Stuart Ortiz. I hope I'm saying his name right. He is one of the directors who did the movie Grave Encounters, which I've never really talked about on this channel, but anyone that knows me, I absolutely love that movie. That movie scared the shit out of me. It was one of those movies that I didn't know what it was and didn't know anything about it, and me and a friend, just one night on a whim, was like a friend who hates horror movies, by the way, who on a whim, I was like, yeah, I just saw the cover for it and the title, and I was like, wait, I gotta watch this. And he was coming over to hang out, and I was like, yeah, dude, we have to watch this movie called Grave Encounters. And we watched it, and that kind of set my love for found footage movies. I always kind of, enjoyed a found footage movie here and there, but this movie set me on a path of finding just these like absolute hidden gems of found footage movies. Grave Encounters to me was so creepy and so scary that literally wigged me out, and literally there was a scene in it that had my friend halfway up the fucking wall. So Grave Encounters has always held a special place for me, and I know both the two directors that have done this, that did Grave Encounters, have split off and done other countless horror movies. I didn't even know that this was the director until I literally was about to walk in and see it yesterday, so that just excited me even more. This movie is in the found footage vein, but it's not that 100%. It's more of a mockumentary, and it has a little bit of that found footage element in there in certain parts of it, but it's enough for me. It's enough because you're interested in what is going on. Essentially, this movie is about a serial killer that's in California, and you're following the two detectives that are pretty much retelling the story of what happened and the events that took place and whatnot like that. This is a killer, too, that he may be killing for what they think might be with some sort of ritual, or they just think he's completely batshit. So, or a good mix of the two. But essentially, yeah, you're following these detectives as they talk you through all this, and it's set up just like one of the Netflix documentaries that you turn on for any of the crime shows that you want to watch. Like if you want to watch this documentary about Ted Bundy, it's told the same way through that, or John Wayne Gacy or anything like that. It's set up just like that. Or if you get on Investigation Discovery and click on a show about following a killer or anything like that, it's told in the exact same way. But it's done so well. Like, it's done so well to a T that, honestly, halfway through it, I forgot that I was even watching a movie. While, yes, there's certain stuff in this movie that they show you that they would never show you on one of the Netflix or ID documentaries, because it's obviously a real victim, and they're not going to exploit a victim or anything like that. In the movie, it really shows you some stuff. There is a lot of graphic stuff that they show you when it comes to kills and how they were killed. And it does it in a way, too, that you're like, ah, damn. But it was just a really well-done movie. Like I said, the fact that I even forgot that I was watching a movie is, to me, a huge compliment to the filmmakers. It has, the way I described it, it had that vibe to it. I don't know if anybody who watches this watched that Night Stalker documentary on Netflix. It's in the same vein as that on the level of creepiness. There was something about that documentary on Netflix that, granted, I watched it around 1 or 2 in the morning as well, which is something I probably shouldn't have done, but I watched it super late, and it was super, super creepy, and it was one of those things that you're just like, ugh, that really like creeped you out and made you feel paranoid. That's how I felt, after leaving this movie. It was a movie that did a really good job of getting under your skin and staying there. Like, when I left the theater, I did this double feature with Weapons, so I saw Weapons and then this. So leaving the theater, at 9, 10 o'clock at night, you just kind of look at people a little bit differently. I'm kind of walking into my car like, okay, this is all right. People start talking, or I hear, shit going off somewhere. I'm like, it's just one of those movies that stays in the back of your mind and kind of gives you that sense of paranoia. And I love movies that are able to do that because you've told an effective story. But it's the same way that the Night Stalker documentary on Netflix had. It's just real creepy, the way certain things were shot. And this has that same feel to it. There are certain scenes where like I said before, where the found footage element comes into it. This is a movie going into it that I thought was going to be more in the found foot or have more of the found footage element to it. But it's definitely more of a mockumentary. It's like 95% mockumentary and 5% found footage, because there's certain things that people find throughout the movie, like the cops, where it shows like evidence of the killer actually coming into the house or coming to a business or anything like that you see, and that's when you get to kind of see the killer and the mask and all that stuff for the first time. And this movie, it like I said, does such a good job, because not only do you get the camera footage, you get police interrogations, you get 911 phone calls, you get all that stuff in this movie. So it's legit watching a crime documentary. If you love anything true crime related, I think this movie will be right up your alley, because it starts off with such a bang from the beginning that you're like, I'm in. I'm so in. Because it's talking about the history of this killer and the stuff that he's done a couple years prior, and this is the resurgence of the killer. Like, he's coming back, I think, is it 15 years later or something like that? I can't remember. But he's coming back so many years later and shows you what he did the previous years leading up to his newest kill, and that's where the title card hits in. And it's pretty gruesome. Like, it's some gruesome shit, but it's straight out of a crime documentary. So if you love crime, anything true crime, I have a feeling this movie will be 100% for you. It legit hooks you from the very beginning, and you are so drawn in. You have to see where this is going to go. You have to see how this is going to play out. And it's just the same way with watching one of those doc series or movies or documentaries, whatever it is. It's the same way as watching one of them. You're so hooked in, you're like, I have to see what's going to happen. I have to know what's going to happen. It does that all the way until the end of the movie. And it does not stop until the end of the movie. Which, by the way, if you do go see this, stay to the end credits. There is an end credits scene at the end. One of the other things I really liked about this movie was that even though this is not a true story at all, they do it so well that even the victims and the family of the victims in this movie, you feel so bad for them. Like, you feel like you do when you're watching one of those true crime docs where something, you cannot help but to feel so bad for the family. And then especially since this movie is very graphic on the detail of the murders, you definitely feel for the victims. Even though, like I said, none of this stuff is real. It's all, made up. It is so well done that you cannot help but to feel something for them. And I think that, again, is another huge compliment. The fact that you can get lost and forget that this is a movie. While some people might think a lot of this stuff is over the top, especially when it gets kind of near the end, for me, I don't think it goes over the top enough to where it takes you out of it completely. You can kind of look at it as, oh yeah, this is definitely more on a movie side, which, like I said earlier, when it shows some of the victims and the crime scene photos and whatnot, obviously they're not going to show that in a real documentary, but so that might take a few people out of it. But for me, I don't know, I was locked in from all the way from the beginning to the end. Like, I like I said, about 30 minutes in, it felt like I was just watching a documentary. I didn't even remember that I was watching a movie. And nothing big or, way over the top took me out of it to where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely back watching a movie. And like I said, I give props to the filmmaker for that, because I think that's something very hard to pull off. And I know there's another scene I can think of where something happens, and of course it does the famous found footage style thing where the camera glitches right when something's getting ready to happen, and you see a particular something. And obviously that's a big cliche for found footage, but I think that happens at one point in the movie, and I can feel like some people will be like, yeah, that kind of reminded me that I was watching a movie, and I totally understand that. But for me, I was locked in for this the whole way through. One of the things I thought was really cool about this movie as well is that throughout this movie, it spreads this breadcrumbs of what this killer is actually up to, and if it is this occult thing, it slowly drops these hints of what he's doing, and it kind of builds this lore like it's building towards something. So at the end of it, it leaves a potential opening for a sequel, or if this could be a different character, or the same killer, or anything like that. And it does a really good job of establishing that and building off of that. So it kind of catapults this question of, well, can this stuff happen again, and will it continue to happen? Even if something does happen to this guy, will something, whatever he's up to, will something continue that? I also thought the look of the killer was really cool. Like the way that he like made his own like mask and whatnot like that, and you don't really know like why he's doing what he's doing. You're with the filmmakers that are making this documentary about just slowly peeling back this story. And I love movies like that because they just keep peeling back stuff, and you get more story, more evidence, more of what's going to happen, and it just adds so much more to your experience and your enjoyment of the movie. And they do such a great job with that. It's the same way it's the same way of going into a crime documentary about a certain serial killer or a certain event that happened. If I'm interested in watching it, I will not look up anything until I've watched it, because I kind of want to go into it with this blank slate, and I want to follow the detectives myself and watch them piece things together leading up to the reveal of what happened or where this guy is now or whatever the event was. And I think it's so much more satisfying with if you do it that way. To me, I didn't feel like there was really any negatives or nitpicks with me. This movie was only like an hour and a half, and it holds your attention and just floors you for the entire hour and a half. And I'm so happy that this movie came out along with Weapons, because this is, again, another movie to where I was very unnerved in certain parts and very creeped out. And the fact that I left the theater like real paranoid and just really just with that feeling of dread, the way that, this documentary, or this movie has that feeling of dread through this entire runtime of this movie. You're not really, I mean, some points you're kind of on edge about certain things, especially when you get some more of the found footage elements to it. It leaves you with that tense on edge. But with that, even with the when the two lead detectives are talking about the case, it's just you're filled with dread the entire time, because you don't know, based on what this killer is doing, you do not know how he's going to kill next, who he's going to kill next, or anything like that. Like, this is a dude at random, and you just don't know what it's just a very unpredictable person. Besides leaving his certain, calling card, I guess, at scenes, other than that, you do not know what he's going to do or what he's capable of. And I think that added not only a level of tension, but it really added more to that dread throughout. Because every time that they say they find a body, you're like, oh, shit. You're like, what now? So it adds so much to the movie for that. Yeah, I don't really have any negatives or nitpicks with that. I just really enjoyed going into this movie blindly and going for the ride that it took me. It took me on a ride that I really like, and I had a really good time with it. This is a movie I highly recommend going to see. It is definitely worth your time and your attention and money and all that stuff. If you can, do a double feature with Weapons. Do a double feature with Weapons, like I did. I think it because they're two really good movies that has come out this week, and I know this is the same week that Freakier Friday came out or comes out and all that stuff, and it's a Disney movie, it's a big property, all that good stuff. So I'm sure that's going to be the one that appeals to most people, which I understand. But if you're a crime junkie, a crime fanatic, and all that stuff, this movie's right up your alley. I definitely recommend going to see it. And with Barbarian, it's a great double feature of the fact that both movies just ooze dread and tension. So if you want a couple hours at the theater of just, feeling like that, this is definitely two movies for you. But like I said, they pair very well as a double feature together. They're both very good, unique, original movies, and I really want people to see it. Especially this one. I feel like this is one that needs a push because it's so small and independent. I feel like it's going to fly under the radar, and I really don't want that to happen. This is one that I really want people to see. So do yourself a favor. Go see this movie. Go enjoy it and have a good time with it. Same with Weapons. Please, if you can, go see them both. Support them both. And just have a good time. Thank you so much, everybody. That's my review for Strange Harvest. If this is the review that you're finding me on, please come over to my channel and check out all my other 2025 reviews. I have quite a bit at this point, so I'd love to see you over there. Come hang out. Let's have some fun. And as always, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That way I can see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much.